thematic session I already mentioned, entitled Tourism Reimagined Towards Sustainable, Low-Carbon, Regenerative and Inclusive Operations. The Sustainable Tourism Program of the One Planet Network, it's one of our trailblazing initiatives and partnerships. And as you hear and follow this session, you will understand why. And it's because it's driven by the power of data, science, business commitments, stakeholder engagement, ownership by destinations as well, and truly unique United Nations leadership and partnership, which is embodied by the UN Tourism Organization, who is the leading partner of this agenda, and we are proud supporters and co-partners of the Sustainable Tourism Program. Also, it has been leading and showing us how to create flagship initiatives and impact initiatives that actually bring businesses together and help them improve step by step. And through that power of collaboration, we're seeing a transformation in the tourism sector. So this discussion today, it brings a number of perspectives, but there is one that I am particularly proud, and that is the strong engagement by partners here in Brazil. And I see it, as head of the One Planet Network Secretariat, more as a starting point of a wave that we want to create, a positive wave that we want to create towards greater commitments, towards greater actions, so that a year from now, when Brazil hosts the Conference of the Parties on Climate Change and continues to lead a number of important processes, the tourism industry is at the vanguard, at the lead in sustainable tourism practices across a number of areas, and I will stop at that. So just want to appreciate my dear friend, Virginia Fernandez-Rapa, who on behalf of Zorica Urošević, the Deputy Executive Director of UN Tourism, will moderate and lead this session, and I want to invite her to the podium and to continue with this important discussion. Virginia, over to you.
Thank you so much, Jorge. It's great to be here. I want to thank also the host, the Brazilian government, for allowing us a space to discuss tourism in this forum. The tourism sector is one of the high-impact sectors identified in the Sustainable Consumption and Production Global Strategy. And through the One Planet Sustainable Tourism Program, as Jorge just mentioned, we are trying to do our best to support the transition of this sector to a sector that is low carbon, that is regenerative, and that is inclusive in its operations. Actually, tourism sector is a sector that involves us all, whether we're conscious of it or not. Only by traveling to Rio to attend this conference, most of you are tourists already, and what you do and what you not do is part of the impact of the tourism sector that we are discussing here today. Our sector, as you all know, has an important economic impact. Before the pandemic, it represented 10% of global GDP. That includes direct, indirect, and induced impact. And also represented 1 in every 10 jobs. And it particularly creates jobs for women and youth. For instance, 60% of the workforce are ladies. Now we have recovered from COVID. It has taken us a long time to get back on our feet. Basically, on Q1 of this year is when the sector finally saw the light out of the end of the tunnel. And that also means that the environmental impacts connected with tourism operations are back. So, yes, our sector does have important economic impact and also important environmental impacts. We consume a lot of resources, energy, water, we generate waste, and along, etc. Also, emissions, greenhouse gas emissions from tourism have been estimated to represent between 8 and 10% of global emissions. That includes direct, indirect, and supply chain emissions. So it's a big footprint. And calculations done in 2019 showed that if we continue as a sector, business as usual, our emissions will actually increase by 25% by 2030. Making us miss all kinds of climate targets that the governments have agreed. So, as I said, in the One Planet Sustainable Tourism Program, we're committed to support this transformation. But after this long intro, which I hope has given you a good snapshot of where we stand in tourism, who we are, I'd like to introduce the video of our Executive Director, Ms. Zorica Urosevic. She unfortunately could not make it, but let's listen to her words. The video, please, colleagues.
Distinguished guests and colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, it is with great pleasure that I welcome you to today's session, Tourism Reimagined towards Sustainable, Low-Carbon, Regenerative and Inclusive Operations. This gathering comes at a crucial moment in our sector's history, one of both remarkable recovery and significant responsibility. The global tourism sector has shown extraordinary resilience, rebounding strongly from the challenges of COVID-19 pandemic. In the first quarter of 2024, international tourist arrivals reached 97% of pre-pandemic levels, signaling a robust and enduring demand for travel. This resurgence is a testament to the strength of our sector, but it is also underscoring the urgent need for a transformative approach. Our sector is estimated to be responsible for 8% of global green gas emissions. The usage of single-use plastics is still prominent in tourism operations, and a lot of the food and other goods consumed by tourists are imported, leading to economic leakages, among other challenges. At UN Tourism, as the lead of the One Planet Sustainable Tourism Program, we want to ensure that sustainable tourism promotes equitable economic development, reduces environmental degradation, and fosters inclusive growth. Achieving these outcomes requires integrating sustainable consumption and production and circular economy into the tourism sector's core strategies. By leveraging sustainable practices, we can enhance the resilience of tourism destinations, promote local economies through sustainable supply chains, and adopt innovative technologies for environmental conservation. During today's session, we will explore how we can shift towards sustainable, low-carbon, regenerative, and inclusive practices, and showcase successful strategies and approaches with a focus on three key areas: food waste reduction, plastic pollution elimination, and climate change mitigation and adaptation. Initiatives such as the Glasgow Declaration on Climate Action in Tourism, the Global Tourism Plastic Initiative, or the Global Roadmap for Food Waste Reduction, which are leading within the framework of the One Planet Sustainable Tourism Program, and with support from UNEP, are providing a way forward for the needed transformation of tourism operations to take shape. Ladies and gentlemen, the future of tourism is in our hands. Together, we have the power to reimagine and reshape our sector into one that not only thrives economically, but also champions sustainability, inclusivity, and regeneration. I encourage you all to actively participate in today's discussions, to share your insights and innovations, and to leave here inspired to take meaningful action. To close, I would like to take a moment to announce a significant milestone for our sector. This year's UN Climate Change COP29, taking place in Baku, Azerbaijan, in the month of November, has included for the first time in history a thematic day on tourism to be celebrated in Azerbaijan. This achievement is connected to the successful delivery of the One Planet Sustainable Tourism Program, and if you are planning to be in Baku on 20th of November, we would be delighted to welcome you to the celebration of the Tourism Day at COP29. I thank you, and I look forward to fruitful dialogue and commitments that will emerge from today's session.
So I'm trying to fix the PowerPoint while we fix the mic. Can we bring the slides back to the slide with the panelists, please? Okay, thank you very much. I wanted to thank our executive director. She's very inspiring. She supports a lot the work of the One Planet Sustainable Tourism Program. And really, she was very sad that she could not be with us here in person. We now move on to the second part of our session. But before doing so, let me please introduce the amazing lineup of speakers that we have here with us. Marina Bakri, from the end towards me. She's the head of ESG in the Brazilian Tourism Board. Thank you, Marina, for joining us. We have also Mr. Mateus Mendes. He's portfolio manager of Green Initiative. We have Ms. Thalita Uceda, head of sustainability in Grupo Cataratas. We have also Mónica Borovia, director in Roteiros de Charme. And finally, we have Bruno Wendling. He's director and president of Mato Grosso do Sul Tourism Foundation. So thank you, colleagues. I think they deserve an applause. Thank you for joining us. And now, as already advanced to you from the slide, I'd like to give the floor to my colleague Marina. She will deliver a keynote on behalf of Embratur. Marina, the floor is yours.
Hello, good morning, bom dia. Ladies and gentlemen, senhoras e senhores, it's an honor to be here with all of you today to discuss the future of tourism and the transformations we are leading in Brazil. President Marcelo Freixo really apologizes he wanted to be here today in this important panel. I'm representing Embratur, the Brazilian Tourist Board, and we believe that we can play a crucial role in promoting sustainable and regenerative practices in the tourism sector. And I would like to share more about this mission with all of you. So we think that Brazil finds itself in a unique position to lead real change in the world and the tourism sector as it recovers economically post-pandemic. This change must happen as we rethink our way of living, growing, eating, and traveling. So my name is Marina Bakri. For the past 19 months, I've been leading the small but very effective ESG team at Embratur, and it's been a true joy to see our ideas come to life and our leadership, staff, and partners become ever more engaged with the theme. Since 2023, Brazil has repositioned itself on the global stage as a country that embraces diversity, sustainability, and innovation. Embratur has been a key actor of this repositioning, promoting the authenticity and richness of our tourism experiences with a keen eye towards regeneration and sustainability. All of this is done with a clear focus on practices that respect the environment and promote social well-being. At the heart of our strategy is the concept of regenerative tourism. We know that merely minimizing environmental damage is no longer enough. We must restore, regenerate, and revitalize the ecosystems that make up our tourism destinations. One excellent example of this commitment is our partnership with the Biofábrica de Corais project, which aims to restore marine biodiversity by cultivating corals in degraded areas. Another highlight is the On Safari initiative, which works to conserve jaguars, not only protecting the species, but also promoting ecotourism and fostering the species, a closer connection between visitors and Brazil's wildlife. Embratur has been working closely with these partners to spread the word about conservation in our territory, and I'm really glad to be here in this panel with some of our very, very close partners like Mato Grosso do Sul already. Moreover, we are proud of our partnerships with humanitarian organizations such as Refúgio 343, which is dedicated to the social and economic reintegration of refugees and migrants in Brazil. Embratur wants to show the world Brazil's warm and welcoming nature, as well as support organizations that promote real change, in line with the Sustainable Development Goals and UN's core values. At Embratur, we're also applying rigorous ESG practices internally. In 2023, we implemented Brazil's zero waste methodology, no Instituto Lixo Zero Brasil, significantly reducing waste generation in our operations and offsetting carbon emissions of our travels through the purchase of carbon credits. This internal effort is part of a broader strategy, covering 70 goals already being implemented across all areas of our agency. Of course, decarbonization remains one of the biggest global challenges for tourism. We know that carbon emissions related to transportation, especially our air travel, are a critical issue. But there is hope on the horizon. Airlines are investing heavily in research to use sustainable aviation fuel, which represents a promising solution to significantly reduce greenhouse gas emissions in the near future. Embratur is closely monitoring these innovations and promoting discussions that can accelerate the adoption of such technologies. Speaking of innovation, it's also a fundamental pillar of our strategy. Through Embratur Lab, we are accelerating Brazilian startups that bring innovative and green solutions to the tourism sector. These solutions are essential for efficiently integrating sustainability into our destinations. One concrete example is the implementation of the statistical framework for measuring the sustainability of tourism, developed in partnership with UN Tourism through our Data Intelligence Office. With 63 indicators per destination, we are gaining an increasingly precise view of how tourism can be more sustainable and more resilient. In addition to these sustainability efforts, Embratur has been actively modernizing the tools that we use to promote Brazil internationally. A key example is our recently launched campaign focused on the Amazon, which highlights the region's unparalleled biodiversity and its critical role in the global environmental agenda. Through initiatives like the Amazon Gallery in New York in the International Tourism Plan for 2025 and 27, we are showcasing Brazil's natural wonders and authentic cultural experiences to the world. These campaigns are designed to emphasize not only the beauty of our landscapes, but also our commitment to conservation and sustainable tourism. Finally, I would like to emphasize that Embratur is not only leading these changes internally, but also encouraging our partners, companies, and local governments to follow the same path. We have been mapping ESG initiatives across states and tourism companies through strategic agreements, ensuring that the best sustainable practices spread throughout Brazil and are promoted on our web pages. Embratur's doors are wide open to these conversations. We invite you to get to know our web pages using these QR codes. And you can actively join the conversation by accessing our WhatsApp channel, where you will receive in Portuguese for now, but soon in English and Spanish, our latest information, events, and plans. Ladies and gentlemen, Brazil with an S is back as the country the world knows and loves, but now with a renewed commitment to sustainability and innovation. We have the opportunity to lead the transformation of tourism into a regenerative, inclusive, and low-carbon model. And I am confident with our vision and efforts, we can build a more prosperous future for tourism in Brazil and globally. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Marina, for your work. It's great to have you as a partner, and also for mentioning the vocation to anchor the decisions on data. We've heard it throughout the panels, how important it is to measure. So for the record, tourism sector is also trying to measure thoroughly its footprint. It is complicated, but since the month of February, the United Nations General Assembly approved a statistical methodology, a statistical framework that is called Measuring Sustainability of Tourism. And that's going to inform tourism statistics, hopefully being rolled out massively and rapidly. Okay, let's move now to the next part of our session, which is the panel discussion. So I'm going to become a panelist now. Is the mic working? Yeah. Okay, let's see. So, I mean, our session is Tourism Reimagined, and we are in this panel trying to discuss solutions from global the One Planet Sustainable Tourism Program operates at global level to local. The colleagues are mainly operating in Brazil, but we will have also contributions from other regions, you will see in some videos. So as we heard from the executive director, the panel will mainly focus on climate action and also circularity. And how are we addressing the integration of circular economy principles in tourism is through plastics and food. There are many other elements subject of circularity, but so far not within the scope of the One Planet Sustainable Tourism Program. So can we actually reimagine a tourism sector with zero plastic waste? It sounds great, right? So, but we have to work hard for it. Let's see how the colleagues in Sri Lanka are doing it. We will watch a video from Zero Plastics Movement Sri Lanka. Please, colleagues, the video can go in.
Tourism is a powerful engine for economic growth, but its environmental impact can be profound. The biggest challenge is today's tourism industry is how they can transit into the circular models which reduce plastic and the other side sustain the business. Zero Plastic Movement is the Sri Lanka's largest environmental volunteer force. We executed few initiatives which supported the tourism industry to be sustainable and to reduce their plastic consumption. Let me explain how Zero Plastic Movement addressed the plastic problem across the country. First, what we did, we partnered with all the universities and we trained more than 11,000 change makers to deploy to the communities and to the hospitality industry. The first initiative we did, getting the volunteer force established under the Zero Plastic Club network across the country. And then, secondly, we mobilized our trained volunteers to the hospitality industry and to the community to educate about the plastic reduction and the sustainability. That was the first initiative we did, the support of the tourism board and tourism related initiatives. Second, we partnered with the hospitality industry or the travel industry to make sure that the plastic in the environment is clean. So as you all know that there are so many plastic in waterways and the environment and the ocean. So ocean is the key component in the tourism industry here in Sri Lanka. So what we did, we partnered with the local communities and our volunteer base and the hospitality industry. Together, we executed cleanup drives across the country, make sure that the beaches are very clean for welcome tourism. Not only that, as you all know that in waterways, there are so many plastic floating into the ocean. We developed Zero Plastic Strainer or plastic trap, which we installed in the canals and rivers and which can trap plastic before reaching to the ocean. The third initiative was promoting plastic alternatives such as bamboo products, cane products, reed products and wooden and the paper products. So what we did, so we realized that within the community there are different audiences such as the disabled people and the minority people and the women. What we did, we deployed our trained volunteers to build their capacity to build up, to promote plastic alternatives. So we, with the support of different organizations, including the government, develop a mechanism to promote plastic alternative development within the communities. So we had then connected these plastic alternatives to the local hospitality industry that the economy is sustained. So promoting plastic alternative is a key component of the Zero Plastic initiative which executed across the tourism industry. Now you will be wondering what is our fourth initiative. We all understand that plastic alternatives are expensive. To sustain the business, we need to have a proper mechanism how we can promote these plastic alternatives within the hospitality industry. What we did, we developed a Zero Plastic standard. It's a certification. With the support of Control Union, world's largest accreditation body, we could develop a Zero Plastic standard which recognize, which appreciate the hospital industry who reduce the plastic within the properties. Now Zero Plastic certification is promoting the plastic alternative within the hospitality industry. To provide the products, we connect this hospitality industry with the communities. So as you can see that we have initiated the 360.
Oh, something happened, but it's okay. I think you got a bit the point. That's our colleague Nishanka Da Silva. He is a mover and shaker in Sri Lanka. And of course, he's a signatory, his organization, of the Global Tourism Plastics Initiative. Our initiative focuses on stopping plastic waste at the source. We don't necessarily do cleanup campaigns. We focus on working with the industry to really eliminate the problematic plastics and transition to reusable use. But you can see organizations working on the ground are really taking a more 360 approach and involving communities, which is also great to take responsibility. Global Tourism Plastics Initiative works as a voluntary commitment. You can see the commitments that we're requesting on the screen. And basically now we have over 230 signatories. These are signatories counting as one, but we are talking about big brands that have many hotels. And yeah, we encourage you to take a look more in depth. But now, diving into the local level, I'm going to invite Monica Borovia. Her organization also is a signatory of Global Tourism Plastics Initiative, and Roteiros de Charme is a network. It's more than 60 boutique hotels in different corners of Brazil. So I wanted to ask you, Monica, how are you supporting your members to transition to a circular economy of plastics?
Thank you, Virginia. First of all, good morning to all. Good morning to my colleagues in the panel. And it's indeed a great pleasure to be here today. And I would like to extend the thanks on behalf of our board of directors, as well as our entire membership throughout Brazil. As you quite rightly mentioned, just to get the audience a little bit more familiarized with Roteiros de Charme, it's an association which was born out of the incentive and the engagement that we saw during the Rio Earth Summit back in 1992. And it was the dream of 5 hoteliers to unite what Brazil has best in terms of charm, in terms of quality of services, in terms of authenticity and inclusiveness of the communities where our properties are located and the tourism destinations where we operate. So Roteiros de Charme has over 30 years of existence in Brazil. And this path was only possible through the partnerships that we've incurred over the years, one of them being the United Nations Environment Program, which was instrumental in the adoption back in 1999 of a voluntary code of ethics and conduct, which is observed and implemented by all of our properties throughout Brazil. And I should also mention that I think is a very particular characteristic that they are small media hotels, and in fact we only have 2 of them located in a state capital, in Natal and Salvador in the northeast of Brazil. So they're really special places that strive very much to generate multipliers in the communities that they work. And so it came as no surprise then that when GPTI came into place, we decided to be signatories. And it has been a journey, a continued journey, as you're going to hear from me. But through 3 decades, we've been able to hopefully share with you a little bit of the experiences in this path. So we have taken the commitments of the initiative very seriously, and we are still working, of course, to come to grips with the challenges of circularity in plastic reductions. But we have made significant improvement and strives in one of the areas that I just want to highlight here in taking into account the time that we have here, moving from single-use plastics to reuse models or reusable alternatives. We all know that we are committed to eliminate, to innovate, and to circulate. We also are making progress in the ways and the forms that we communicate to the audiences that we serve, in the communities that we operate in. So reporting annually and publicly is very important, and as well as collaboration with our supply chain, which we believe is vital to incur transformational changes in behavior and to those that we want to serve. So I will give you now just a quick series of examples of how we have been able to do that. It might sound basic perhaps to some of those in the audience which have been involved in this in other parts and other regions of the world, but as we know, we have great challenges in terms of social issues, economic issues, and so for us it has been a moment, and it is a moment to our hoteliers of great pride. We were trying to eliminate problematic or unnecessary plastic packages, such as straws, which we all know the impact that they can have, and we have moved away from those plastic ones to stainless steel, glass, or paper. Some of our hotels also have engaged very heavily in trying to avoid plastic bags and in their daily operations. And how do we do that? In some cases, we use cloth bags for guest laundry rolls, made in local communities, again, involving the community and getting the message out there that they are very much important in this transformational change, and every individual and every attitude matters. We have also used craft paper bags in dry garbage bins throughout the facilities of hotels, accommodations included, offices. We have moved away to a great extent to use dispensers for toiletries and bathrooms, removing the need for individual containers. We have developed in different occasions returnable containers, say, for outdoor activities, for snacks, for picnics, for packing, so that comes back to the hotel. We live in a country which is blessed and privileged with so many opportunities for enjoying our natural environment, and this is very important in the way that we do our business. We also have looked at ways of completely eliminating plastic water bottles from businesses. And this has been a challenge, but we have found partners in Brazil that have alternatives, including glass, and even very much cultural alternatives, especially in the Northeast and other regions of Brazil, where we use clay filters still. And using, in some cases, artisanal well water, which is analyzed regularly. And so it's a question of, in this particular item, in Brazil, culturally, we have a tendency to prefer mineral water, drinking mineral water. And so it is a process and is working very well. Finally, I would say purchase policies valuing suppliers committed to reducing plastic use. This is some of the priorities. I'm going to finish because time is sticking. But you also asked me what are some of the priorities that we feel. So I would say promotion of reuse models, implementation of these models and its upscale, it's very important. Engaging, again, the value chain to move towards reusable, recyclable, and compostable packaging, promoting affordable and sustainable options. So I'll stop here. Thank you.
Thank you, Monica. Thank you so much. I mean, I really hope that the hotel experience becomes zero plastics by default, that we, manage to make this the status quo, because eliminating plastics is very challenging in a tourism business. There are certain plastics which are even more complicated to eliminate for sanitary regulations, like those in the kitchens, etc. But at least eliminating them consumer-facing should be by default in the next few years, and hopefully in the back of the house also before 2030. So counting on you as tourists as well to, encourage the hoteliers that host you to make this change. It has to happen. It needs to happen. So thank you so much, Monica, for the contribution there and for being a signatory. I'm going to invite now Talita to tell us a little bit about what Grupo Cataratas is doing. For those of you who don't know what Grupo Cataratas is, basically they are managing iconic attractions of Brazil, like Cristo Redentor or Tijuca or Iguazu Falls in the National Park. I mean, places that are very iconic and also very visited. So how are you addressing issues, Talita, like waste management, water and energy consumption, etc.?
Thank you, Virginia. Thank you so much for the invitation. It's really a pleasure for me to be here today, really an honor. As my fellow panelists here were talking early before we came up, I will try to approach some of my content in Portuguese so that we could dig a little deeper on the content and be more practical, but feel free to ask English questions and we will answer. Como a Virginia falou, o Grupo Cataratas ele opera alguns pontos de turismo bastante icônicos no Brasil, como o Parque Nacional da Tijuca, o Parque Nacional do Iguaçu e Fernando de Noronha. E eu acho que, assim, partindo de um ponto de vista de que a gente está todo mundo aqui hoje com o entendimento de que o turismo é um setor que tem um potencial gigante de trazer desenvolvimento socioeconômico, eu acho que a gente está todo mundo aqui hoje também com muita crença de que a gente consegue fazer isso de uma maneira que a gente não ameace e não gere impactos negativos para o meio ambiente e para a nossa biodiversidade. E a gente sabe que o Brasil tem muitos pontos turísticos icônicos que vão além do Cristo Redentor ou das Cataratas do Iguaçu, que eu acho que todo mundo que está aqui hoje, né, Marina, quer que esses pontos também ganhem relevância, também ganhem atratividade, também tenham mais e mais turismo acontecendo para movimentar essa economia, movimentar essa geração de impacto positivos. E a gente tem buscado ferramentas de tentar fazer isso com o mínimo impacto possível. Então, dentro do Grupo Cataratas, o que a gente tem tentado fazer é desenvolver ferramentas e metodologias internas que possam nos apoiar nessa gestão de potenciais impactos. E se eu for falar assim de um ponto de vista de uma jornada, tentando não ser óbvia, né, tentando não sair assim, você não soar muito óbvia, mas sendo bastante prática, eu acho que a gente começou a nossa jornada talvez da maneira mais clássica possível, que a Virginia estava falando, que é medindo, né? A gente conseguir olhar para a nossa operação e identificar os nossos indicadores, como é que a gente vai monitorar e como é que a gente vai acompanhar o desempenho no consumo da água, da energia, na gestão de resíduos e tantos outros aspectos que são relevantes. Então, o primeiro passo que a gente tomou foi mapear aspectos relevantes e iniciar esse monitoramento. E, a partir daí, sim, começar a pensar em projetos, em atividades, em iniciativas que pudessem aumentar a ecoeficiência e melhorar essa performance dos nossos resultados. E, mais recentemente, a gente sentiu a necessidade de olhar esses resultados de um outro ponto de vista que pudesse ser melhor traduzido para os nossos stakeholders em relação à performance, né? Porque para muitos stakeholders, falar quantos metros cúbicos de água um parque consome ou quantas toneladas de resíduo ele gera, não é fácil você identificar se isso é pouco, se isso é muito, se isso é bom, se isso é ruim. Então, a gente traçou uma metodologia interna de tentar parametrizar esses dados a partir da nossa base histórica de dados, né, depois de já quase 10 anos monitorando, e parametrizar esses dados em categorias qualitativas de entendimento desses indicadores que a gente monitora mês a mês, que vão desde críticos ou ruins a excelentes e bons, e a gente consegue traduzir isso de uma maneira mais palatável para poder engajar melhor a nossa liderança, os nossos stakeholders, em melhorar cada vez mais esses resultados. Então, eu acho que tem uma parte bastante relevante da estratégia em medir e acompanhar e monitorar resultados, mas também, sem deixar de lado, esse pensamento inovador de trazer ações e projetos que nem sempre são grandes tecnologias, né? Muitas vezes são coisas óbvias e bastante práticas que vão entregar resultado. A gente tem alguns exemplos legais de serem falados. Em 2014 ainda, a gente implementou em Fernando de Noronha um projeto para a venda de garrafas reutilizáveis de água, e o visitante, ao comprar a garrafa, ele ganhava o refil de água fresca enquanto ele estivesse dentro do parque. E essa medida foi responsável por reduzir em 50% a venda e circulação de garrafas descartáveis dentro do Parque Nacional Marinho de Fernando de Noronha. Então, foi uma medida que, na época, deu um resultado muito bom, muito positivo. Depois, anos depois, o governo trouxe uma lei, né, que foi o Noronha Plástico Zero, para banir, de fato, o plástico na ilha, mas a gente entende que isso tudo foi uma grande construção que chegou a esse resultado. E, por outro lado, também soluções baseadas na natureza, né? A gente tem também, em Fernando de Noronha, um outro exemplo bem legal, que foi a implementação de um banheiro seco. Eu brinco que é uma experiência, porque a maioria das pessoas não está acostumada a frequentar um banheiro seco, então só de ir no banheiro já é uma experiência. E esse banheiro seco, ele é alimentado, né? A matéria que a gente usa como a descarga do banheiro, ela é um material lenhoso de espécies exóticas invasoras, que são uma das principais ameaças da biodiversidade local em Fernando de Noronha. Então, a gente faz o manejo dessas espécies exóticas invasoras, usa o material lenhoso para gerar ali o composto do banheiro seco. Esse composto é levado para um viveiro de mudas nativas, que é irrigado também pelo tratamento de efluentes líquidos de outros banheiros de dentro do parque. E aí essas mudas nativas são depois plantadas nas áreas onde a gente está fazendo o manejo das espécies exóticas invasoras. Então, é realmente um ciclo ali da gente tentar trabalhar a restauração e o impacto positivo através desse olhar das tecnologias baseadas na natureza. Então, para mim, assim, em termos de gestão, é muito uma mistura entre medidas clássicas de medir, acompanhar e monitorar indicadores. Eu acho que data é tudo hoje, né? Dados são tudo, então a gente precisa ter esse olhar, sim, de medir, de acompanhar a performance, sem deixar de lado o pensamento inovador, o pensamento de buscar medidas e práticas que possam melhorar essas performances e esses indicadores que a gente está medindo.
Muito obrigada, Thalita. I think another important element to be looking at in the transition of tourism towards low carbon, regenerative, and inclusive is food, right? We know, and we heard it in the intro, that a lot of food is imported, a lot of food is wasted. In some tourism properties, even up to 40% of the food purchased goes to waste. This, again, has to stop. Let's see now how the colleagues from Hilton are working on it. Can we get the video, please?
Hi, I'm Chef Sebastian from Hilton.
Hi, I'm Amina from Warnell.
And we're here to talk about Green Breakfast, an ambition to reduce food waste in half in 13 UAE-based hotels in a few months.
So tell me about the Green Breakfast campaign. What started it?
Well, it's inspired by the United Nations Environmental Programme Recipe of Change, and it's in line with the Nemaf National Food Waste Trial. There are so many different stakeholders. There's behavioral change from team members and guests we had to influence. Our ambition really was to create a roadmap to share with our industry peers in how to accomplish this really ambitious target.
We know supported us by giving us all the data we were missing. We were able to find out what exactly was going to the bin, based on that finding out the guest habits and change accordingly.
Which specific interventions you design when it comes to plate waste with our hotels during the trial to drive impact?
So during the trial, we were able to analyze the plate waste data and identify that the two key areas where waste was coming from was from the bread and pastries and the fruits. So the interventions that we created for these bread and pastries, we decided to change the portion sizes of specific items. While for the fruits, we looked at reducing the sizes of the fruits that were cut up.
Pre and post-consumer waste together. Winnow and Hilton together, we delivered a 62% reduction on average between all the hotels. Let us dare to dream big, because if we deliver 1.8 million breakfasts annually in 13 hotels, how many breakfasts can we impact and influence if we think about the industry?
What these initiatives show us is that if you prioritize something and then measure it, you can make a real difference. But now it has to be an industry priority. This is something we can achieve if we do it together. There is no time to waste.
I think the video says it all. It again speaks about the importance of measurement. Of course, in our program, we have also, I'm struggling with a pointer, I'm sorry. We have also developed some resources for the industry, like the Global Roadmap for Food Waste Reduction, trying to apply a circularity lens, prioritizing the prevention of food waste, but also thinking about how can we redistribute food surplus, or how can we apply valorization processes to food waste to prevent that it ends up in the landfill. Procurement, we heard it yesterday in different panels, is a key strategy. Panels were approaching it more from public procurement perspective. It's also important for businesses. We have developed certain guidelines also for procurement officers to understand the impacts of different types of food. And now landing this debate to Brazil again, but if I may, let's continue in English so that this panel, which is being recorded, can be disseminated globally. Bruno, you mentioned that in many places in Brazil, there's a debate where, you know, agriculture and conservation seem to be in conflict. And I think you found some, let's say, solutions to, or at least avenues towards solution to this problem in Mato Grosso do Sul. Did the tourism sector play a role? Can you tell us a little bit about this, please?
First of all, thank you so much, Virginia, for the invitation. Federico also. It's such a pleasure to be here, represent my state, Mato Grosso do Sul. I'm worked with tourism in the last 25 years, and I'm a tourismologist, also expert in ecotourism. I not find a way, but I want to give you an example what the people in Mato Grosso do Sul are doing, because in the last years I heard a lot about agriculture is bad, the livestock is bad, conservation is good, one to point fingers to the other, and I listen and I listen and I listen. But I live in a state, and I just want to answer this question, Virginia, given one example. And this example calls Eduardo Coelho. He's a huge manager, businessman in Mato Grosso do Sul, in Campo Grande. He is a producer, a livestock producer. He's an agriculture producer, and work in tourism also. And he do all the things in the same territory. So it means that it is possible work with livestock, agriculture, and conservation if you're looking through this position. So in the last 20 years, he owned a group called Rio da Prata Group, staying in Bonito and also in Jardim. It's a main region in Mato Grosso do Sul, the best ecotourism destination in Brazil, World Tourism Responsible Awards in 2013. And I talked with him yesterday a little bit about this. And he works with the genetic, in livestock genetic. He is agriculture also. And he is the first attraction in the world certified climate positive in the same property. So it means you can do a snorkeling in the crystal, a river, very crystal and clear river in Jardim. And very close they have the livestock, and very close they have the agriculture in the same territory. This is an answer. We have an example in Mato Grosso do Sul. It is possible. Other example, Pantanal is a huge place, the most diversity and conserved biome also. Okay, we are living the bad situation this moment because the burns, but this is the cycle of the Pantanal also. And the tourism happens inside the farms. The people work and they live in the Pantanal. We call the Pantanelos people, live there in the last 200 years. They are the people who are responsible for the conservation. And the people work with the livestock, and they conserve the Pantanal. Most of the 85% of the total area are conserved, Virginia. So I want to talk about this because we need to talk with the other places, not only in Brazil, but especially in Europe, to debate a little bit the methodology, then the measure of the carbon, the footprint carbon, then the livestock is not the bad guy, the bad in the process. So a little bit about this. So we have the example in Mato Grosso do Sul. All the ecotourism activities happens in the rural areas, in the same areas that people live and live together with the livestock and do the agriculture and produce food. And you have industry also in the state. Suzano is one of the industry in the state. So a little bit about this. We need to go deeper and not point fingers. The agriculture is bad, conservation is good. And I'm not a producer. I'm a tourismologist, expert in ecotourism. Talk with you a little bit more this. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Bruno. I mean, what I'm hearing is a system, right? Tourism cannot operate in a sustainable way if it's not part of a system, which is the different stakeholders in the destination, whether they are more agricultural stakeholders or other kind of stakeholders, but collaboration is key at destination level. Talita, I'm going back to you. How are you, creating allies in the local communities that are around the conservation units that you manage?
Yeah, I think Bruno said it all. We need to break the barrier that says that conservation units or protected areas are barriers to development. And when local communities sees that these conservation areas can be, in other hand, source of development and business models, they can see value in conserving these protected areas. So I think the secret is exactly that, showing them that the protected areas are valuable and they can generate business. So what we started to do, and again, I think being very obvious, was trying to hire locally, purchase locally, and generate this circular economy locally. Focus our investments locally so that the local community see the tourism practicing inside these protected areas, like from the generation of value point of view. So, of course, it would be easier for us to purchase from big traditional companies for water, sodas, snacks, and things like that. But when we choose to purchase locally, we are valuing these communities, and these small farmers that perhaps were thinking about going inside the park areas, inside the conservation unit to expand their productions, they would see that the park is actually the source of the demand for their consumption. So tourism can track this channel of demands of products from small farmers surrounding the protected areas that will show them the value of the conservation unity and therefore create allies. I think that we have cases in Foz do Iguaçu, Fernando de Noronha, and Bonito, Bruno, where the local community already can see this value and protect the areas and be real allies to the conservation, because they can really see that, as I said, the conservation unity and the protected areas and the biodiversity and our resources are really the origin of business model and generation of value. So I think that's the secret.
Thank you, Talita. I mean, once again, we hear the importance of stakeholder engagement, and in a way that relates a lot with being inclusive. We need to understand how the local community is feeling, how can they participate in tourism. It cannot be that tourism is operating somewhere without even, you know, taking into account the needs of the host community. But unfortunately, we still see this happening in many places. We, for example, have islands that account around 85% of their exports. Tourism is accounted as an export in the balance of payments. 85% are tourism. When we look at their GDP, GDP is 30%. It's still a huge GDP, but can somebody explain me where does the gap between 30 to 85 go? It's not, I'm not an economist, and the comparison is not perfect, but there is a lot of economic leakage just because, you know, communities are not properly involved. I know that in a project of Green Initiative, I'm looking at you, Mateus, now, which was the Machu Picchu certification project, you also invested quite a lot of effort in engaging significant stakeholders. The project also takes place in a conservation area, in this case, UNESCO World Heritage Site. Can you tell us a little bit about this project, Mateus?
So thank you very much, Virginia, for the opportunity of being here, and I'm very glad to be able to participate with such amazing panelists as well. So I'll be talking a little bit about the project that we've been doing with Machu Picchu for the last years. It has been an amazing project until now, and it's been very well received by the local community in Machu Picchu, and also the tourists that are traveling there, and also the international community. So the carbon neutral certification is a powerful catalyst of participation and action. Okay, it adds value to the proposal of the destination, and it introduces more energy for the initiatives to be effectively implemented. When we look at climate action in the destination lenses, right, in the destination perspective, it's clear that we don't have only one responsible organization, for example. It's a shared responsibility to take care of the destination and to approach the climate and environmental aspects of the destination as well. But together with the shared responsibilities from all these different actors, such as the public sector, the private sector, the companies that operates there, and the local communities, we have also shared benefits and shared opportunities to make big changes and to show actually that the environmental conservation is not separate from tourism growth. Okay, so in the special case of Machu Picchu, for example, we have this really iconic place that mixes this huge cultural heritage with also the conservation, and also with a really amazing perspective in terms of civilization on how to approach humanity as a whole. Sorry. in the tourism sector, specifically in such a place in Machu Picchu, the organizations, they wish to contribute with the process because they see that participating and initiation this process can lead to a chain effect that not only relates to the climate and decarbonization practices, but also results in other impacts that go beyond the climate aspect, okay? So the certification brings concrete evidence, theoretical support as well, and outlines a clean path, a clean path for a roadmap for decarbonization of the destination. And the certification also provides an organized and recognized framework that facilitates the implementation of all these measures that we reduce the carbon emissions in the short and long term. So once the involved parties, they understand what are their responsibilities and what they can do to contribute with the change to the carbon emissions. It becomes more clear on how to actuate and who needs to lead each of the actions, okay? But besides all of the actions regarding to the decarbonization of the destination, I think that one of the most important impacts that Machu Picchu certification brings is for it to be a reference for other destinations and also for the tourism industry. As a really inspiring place, it becomes a leadership and it sets the stage for other actors, such as big, small, or medium companies or local communities, and also the tourists, of course, that can contribute and bring, for example, regenerative aspects to the destination, to engage in climate action and give practical solutions to reach these measurable targets established by the certification. Okay.
Thank you, Mateus. It's indeed a nice, very nice project, very impressive place. And what I like the most is that they have actually recertified. So it's not the first time. They're actually continuing with their commitment. It's the second time they certify, which is great because it shows seriousness. And the municipality of Machu Picchu is one of the signatories of the Glasgow Declaration. There is also an initiative of the One Planet Sustainable Tourism Program. It's our climate action initiative, and it functions more or less like the plastics one. It's a voluntary commitment. Any kind of stakeholder can sign up, and they commit to support the global goals and also develop a climate plan so that the actions are structured around pathways to measure, to decarbonize, to regenerate, to collaborate, and finance. So let's hear now another example of implementation, climate action in tourism. Bruno, back to you. What actions has Mato Grosso do Sul implemented that have contributed to reducing its carbon footprint?
This is great. We also, like Machu Picchu, recertificating in this year Bonito as the first ecotourism destination, carbon neutral on the planet. And this is interesting because it was the first step, not the last step, the certification. And I bring this to like the responsibility is huge now, because when we contract green initiatives and they did this amazing work with Bonito, and we launched this certification, they talked about to the people, and they, what is this? What is certification? The local people think about this now. So this is huge, and now this moment, it's a very special moment, because Mato Grosso do Sul, not only the tourism, but the state of the Mato Grosso do Sul begins since 2015, a movement to become the first state in Brazil carbon neutral until 2030. And this commitment was in all the world. We are the signers of the Glasgow Agreement in 2022 or 23. In this moment, we have the plan. I think it's the first plan in the climate team in the world, in the destination tourism, Bonito, and we are implementing this plan. A few actions began, small actions, but I think this is going to be the difference. Inside the Mato Grosso Tourism Foundation, Virginia, I have a special way to do the things. Not only to talking about this, but especially doing this and leadership by the example. The garbage. We are now become probably the first public institution in Brazil, zero garbage or zero waste that certify also. It's more easy to me start doing inside my house then point fingers and tell the local businessman, do this or do that. So Bonito was the example. So we certification the Bonito, the first destination, and also the businessman look at, oh, I want to. So Eduardo Coelho becomes the first attraction in the world, climate positive, all the group. So this is leader by the example. I believe that. And this moment we are implementing this plan. And I hope this plan could be a model to other destination development, these actions. Start with your institution, and after that, help the other people, help the businessmen in the industry to do something also. And okay, and the last thing, 3 weeks ago we launched a huge movement called Bonito Eco Creative Smart City. It's not a program, it's not a project, it's a movement to transform Bonito. Bonito is go to the next step. And we had the 4 goals, or 4 strategy. Education, we bring to the local schools, I forgot now in English, sorry. The technology classes, and also economic creative. We have a territory in Bonito called Marambaia. It's the biggest territory in Bonito. We provide for the local people classes to develop handcraft, to give us the opportunity to develop the art, the musicians, and give you the opportunity to show them this in the winter festival, music, and the other things is technological also. We give you support. We already launched a program very interesting called Challenger, Startup Challenger. It means that we gave support to 4 startups to development, technological solutions, to sustainability, to tourism or tourist experience. So each one of these startups will receive like 400,000 reais, like $80,000 to develop these solutions. I think this is brand new, and these solutions come back to our institution, and we are delivering these solutions to our local trade. So we provide the local trade to have opportunity to do these solutions, or to implement these solutions, and to, I don't know, to help the people through the technology also. And the 4 methodology, or the 4 goals, is sustainability, to implement the plan to become Bonito, the continuous Bonito, be the main ecotourism destination in Brazil.
Thank you, Bruno. I mean, I think Bonito has been known for ecotourism for a long time. It's really great now to hear how you're positioning it also on the climate action agenda. Mateus, you presented your efforts in Peru, Machu Picchu, but Green Initiative works in many destinations. Can you reflect a little bit with us on, like, based on your experience in different sectors, different industries, different locations, how do you see the tourism sector's response to the challenge of climate action?
Thank you, Virginia. I think we, in comparison to other other economic sectors, such as, for example, food and beverages that we are working with, and transportation, we had a really good response from tourism, and especially the ones that involve ecotourism, because it's already integrated with nature as the whole proposal. But from tourism, other touristic businesses as well, such as resorts and hotels that we've been working with, and restaurants as well, that can see a clear benefit in introducing these not only sustainability practices, but practice related to climate action. Okay, so I think that tourism differs a lot from other economic sectors in the sense that it's more of a transversal effect in the society, so and a broad impact as well. So tourism brings employment and generates more commerce and services in regions that sometimes will not have access to other economic activities. It also empowers the local community and the local culture, local tradition. So this generates a really good effect inside of the local communities that starts to value more, for example, what they have to offer in terms of its differences. and on the other hand, also promotes a lot of conservation in terms of the nature resources, especially when we talk about ecotourism. So since ecotourism is the main asset is the environment, right? It's the biome that it's introduced in, and this is totally related to climate action as well, because the forest, they capture the carbon. They see the forest not only as a resource, but as an asset, really what brings people to these locations. So I think tourism has a really good way to contribute to climate action, not only by reducing the emissions in its operations, but also in environmental teaching and education as a whole, because I believe that when someone travels and go to a touristic destination, it's the people are really open to learn more about the destination and to understand that there's something related to openness and inspiration as well. So when we bring the proposition of the destination together with the purpose of climate action, that's like a global goal, which brings lots of value to lots of purpose actually to people who engage in it. I think these two combinations help a lot in the education of people in the touristic destinations to understand why this is really important, and also the tourists that voluntarily, most of the times, want to participate and to regenerate the local destinations. And on the other hand, the tourism sector can also benefit a lot from climate action because, well, it generates more visibility as well, engaging in these actions and showing that these destinations are being more conserved. It helps on the attraction of new tourists or tourists that are aligned with these purposes as well. And it generates a stronger sense of purpose and also in the prevention of climatic disasters. So what we see is that when the actors in the touristic destination understand what are the fragilities of the environment that they are at, what are the risks as well, and what they need to do, both to prevent and to mitigate these effects, there is a more clear vision on what needs to be done and how to share these responsibilities. So it's a really beautiful process, and I think that's why the tourism industry is engaging in a very beautiful way with climate action as well.
Thank you. Here I am again struggling with the slides. Just a second. So if I have to answer that question myself, what is the tourism sector response and where do we stand? You can imagine from UN Tourism what our main interlocutor is the Ministries of Tourism. And that is complicated, how to bring a sector that is not under the Ministry of Environment into the discussion as part of the solution. We can be part of the solution. Mateus just outlined it, the colleagues as well. Of course, we have developed guidance, and here we are trying to engage with Ministries of Tourism to sign up to these voluntary commitments. You heard it from the Executive Director in the introduction. We have a milestone achievement ahead of us, which is COP29, having for the first time in history a day on tourism. So it's COP29, meaning 28 years before without tourism. And yeah, I mean, I count on all of you to make that event a success and to help us push your policymakers, tourism policymakers in your destinations, wherever you go, to make tourism part of the solution for climate. I think we have discussed quite a bit, especially from the, let's say, production angle, the industry angle, the destinations angle, but we didn't speak much about the consumers and how also tourism is really a force to trigger behavior change in the tourists. I wanted to address the last question that we have in the panel, because we are hoping you have questions, and we actually will have some time for that as a rarity in normal conference style. Monica, so what about the consumers? Do you think they are ready to take part in this journey, and how can tourism, take action to bring the tourist on board?
Thank you. Indeed, I think they are very ready to be engaged. I think we're seeing a shift in demanding products, experiences, and opportunities to get engaged as we travel, as we get to know different cultures and different situations around the world. So we feel humbly in our experience that engagement and communication is crucial. Raising awareness, it is actually a permanent, continued process. Although, as I said, we have a better understanding, let's say 40 years ago, what are some of the experience that can be enriching. I think this is a constant, and it's up to us to do better in communicating what we do, what we offer. We also think that storytelling and humanizing experiences and impacts, demonstrating both the positive ones and the negative ones, will give contrast and a better understanding of the value of engaging, why you travel, why you visit, or why being a tourist. And I also think that I need to point out too that from a perspective of the small and medium hospitality sector, it is important to emphasize that any changes in behavior regarding environmental practices will require time and involvement of entire teams. Because education and awareness programs or capacity building efforts can be used in a daily operation of a hotel, but it will require training, efforts, skills that not always are available. And so it is also a question that we need to move away from having these skills serving basically as an organizational policy and moving into bringing these experiences, transformational changes into homes, into communities, so that they see the value of the entire system. So then we can have tourism serving a transformational agency for society change as well. And I think that's something that we need to explore and be better at it. Challenges are immense, but we can do it. And do you have time? So I just wanted to say that as an example too, in our own experience in Roteiros de Charme, our fidelization program for clients there are attuned and are really into what we stand for in our mission, actually invites our guests to become involved in this program, and some of them, the most senior ones, which have been with us in many, many cycles of fidelizations, which include not only a system of points, but also a system of rotation, getting to know the different destinations and the different hotels that we have. They serve in capacities of monitoring hotels with us. So we really have involved them, and it has been very successful to create change. Thank you.
Thank you. I mean, we've heard a lot of information. We started with plastics, we heard about waste, we heard about energy, we heard about food, communities, stakeholder engagement, climate action, of course. Do you have any questions? It is your turn. You're all tourists, so you may have some questions. Don't be shy. Is there a microphone in the room, by the way? I'm not even sure. Thank you, Marina.
Hello. It's a pleasure for us to be here to take part of this, and it's very important we will all discuss about here and all these actions. And I would ask Marina, all of us, we have to think, we have to act, and we have to inspire in many actions to achieve our goals in this challenge we face. But what Embratur is doing in terms, we know that all the things we need some financing. So Embratur is doing something in order to help the tourism area by looking for financing, so those beautiful ideas we have in Mato Grosso or even Roteiros de Charme or in Iguaçu Falls, but all these projects we need the financing to achieve our challenges.
Thank you for your question. Yes, Embratur, I think just as much as our partners, also struggles with budget. So we are also looking to some funds, some Brazilian funds, but some international funds as well. So Embratur has submitted projects to Fundo Socioambiental da Caixa Econômica Federal to develop tourism in the Belém wider area in view of COP30 next year. So we have submitted that project. We're still waiting for an answer, hopefully, because it's a project that is very focused on regenerative tourism. So it's about conserving the mangues, the mangroves, as well as allowing international tourists to come and have a pre-organized itinerary to visit those areas and be very involved in the regeneration of the mangroves. And we also submitted a project to BNDES Fund, the Amazon Fund, and that one is more focused, I think it's closer to Manaus, but I don't want to give wrong information, but we have submitted another project also to BNDES, also awaiting approval because we know that we can't do everything by ourselves. It's not even our institutional attribution, but really working with these partners and trying to multiply good practices, which is what you were saying, is super important.
On our end, of course, when I mentioned the policymaker earlier, what we're trying to do is to have stronger tourism policies in terms of climate action, so that indeed we can discuss with environmental financing bodies, so that tourism is part of, you know, those that are capable of accessing the funding. Because if we keep having policies that are only focusing on growing the numbers of tourists, no environmental funding is going to be flowing to tourism. So policymaker has quite a task ahead to transform really, you know, the objectives and integrate sustainability, not just, I would say, as an objective or north, but develop actionable instruments that can make it happen. For example, incentives for properties that are really, you know, investing in transforming or other elements. Anybody else would have a question? It would be nice to have more questions. We can cater for two. Yes, please.
Thank you very much. My name is João. I'm with the Brazilian MFA. I have a perhaps more trivial question, but still. I've spoken with a few locals here in Rio. It's my first time here. And I heard some people talk about how a greater touristic movement, traffic of people in Rio sometimes makes the touristic activities and services more expensive for the people who live here, the local communities. And I'd like to know if there's anything any of you on the panel would have to say on how to still maintain the accessibility and attractiveness for local communities while you know, promoting these touristic activities, maybe through regulatory measures or engagements of the community as well, to maintain the access for the people who live in these places and want to enjoy these services and activities as well. Thank you.
Thank you so much for the question. I'll share some reflections, colleagues, and then if you have any additional thoughts, I'm happy to pass the mic. I mean, of course, inflation is one of the negative impacts that tourism can have in a destination. And what we see now, for example, with shared properties, with Airbnbs and the like, is that all the planning, the urban planning that has been done for tourism has not accounted for these rental properties. So all of a sudden, what the policymaker and the urban planner tried to put together as a solid plan is gone. This is a practice which, you know, some of us think can democratize also the access to some resources, but it has to be regulated in a way. And when it is not, it really disrupts these destinations to a large extent. I don't want to blame also the short-term rentals, because of course there's inflation even if there are not short-term rentals. But the point that I'm trying to make is, once more, the responsibility of the policymaker to try to really find balance. In this case, it's a societal impact that could have make, you know, access to housing, for example, almost impossible. In city centers like Barcelona or Madrid, you have neighborhoods that are completely desertic. Everything has become short property rental. And now the legislator is coming a bit late trying to fix the problem, but they are waking up. They are waking up, so I'm optimistic and don't think it's ever too late. But for emerging destinations, of course, what we always recommend is to really look at these issues since the very beginning. You know, that the planning is encompassing all the different typologies of accommodation that you can find now, which are way beyond just the traditional hotel. I hope that answers a bit your question. And thank you also for bringing the element of social impacts. Although we don't work in detail on One Planet Sustainable Program, on the social part, you cannot disconnect it from the environment. It is planet and people. So thank you. Anybody else? I think we can cater. I know we're standing between you and lunch, so just it's a difficult position, but if anybody else has one more question, it would really be a pleasure to hear different views.
Okay, hi. It's just a short question. Who else wants to answer? I've heard that there are some chemicals that are dangerous for animals, such as sunlight and insecticide. I would like to know if one of you is implementing those correct activities of wearing maybe ecological products, and how should we promote these actions for tourism, considering that on airplane most of us can carry a small package, so we have to buy it on the local place where we're going.
Okay. So what I understood for the question, because the volume was a bit low, just correct me if I'm wrong, the first one was on chemicals, right? We couldn't really hear much. And then airplanes and plastics, sorry.
Sorry, I was talking about products we use for protecting for sun, yeah, and also for insects. I was saying that if you are using those activities or promoting ecological products that don't danger animals and corals, that was my question, and how to promote to use those products for tourists.
Thank you. I mean, the chemicals was, I think, my mind already producing an answer. Basically, so what the problem with these products is the chemicals of concern that are sometimes hiding in the sunblock, in the fusfus or whatever you call it, and we are not necessarily aware of the chemicals of concern in our supply chain. That is as hard as it sounds. It's only now becoming a bit more common that destinations would start to do assessments of chemicals of concern in the supply chain of tourism, also related to Basel Protocol, Montreal Protocol, etc., to really understand. Tourism is a business, so it's business-minded people. They don't really have a training to understand that the components of a sunblock would be compromising environmental health. So it's a process also of educating the industry, but that, you know, is a process that I think has to start from a different authority. Different authority has to train tourism stakeholders and businessmen to understand these products. Chemicals are dangerous, and then we definitely, as destination managers, can see how to inform the tourist, because you certainly want to have a tourist that has a good experience, that is coming back. And I don't think anybody would object that going on vacation and learning something like, wow, I didn't know that my sunblock was hurting the coral reef. Not everybody knows that. Is something enriching. So certainly in terms of telling stories, we're the best sector. We just, I mean, my colleagues and I, we want that those stories are solid, you know. So that would be a bit the rationale. I mean, it's basically, if it's not communicated more by tourism, it's because the tourist business do not know. Colleagues, do you want to add something? Mateus, please.
Actually, we have a really good case in Bonito that Bruno told us about. It's about Grupo Rio da Prata. They have this big property, and the main attraction is a really clear river with lots of really different types of waterfall, and the clients, they stay there. And they have this constant, this conscientiousness project that they advise the tourists not to use this kind of solar. And since the river is surrounded by forest as well, they don't have too much direct sun all the time, so it's a perfect situation for people to understand more about this. But I think it comes a lot, nowadays it comes a lot from the actual businesses and like the tourism destination management. And it's not something that actually, it's more an educative action than something that prohibits the use, you know. But I think it's all about talking about the tourist understanding what is its impact in the location, you know? Something that usually is useful, not useful, but it's normal for the tourists. Sometimes they don't understand that it generates impact, and once they are informed, they avoid it if they wish so. I think that's the way.
Exactly, and we see that the mindset of the tourist is also changing, and there's more appetite to really connect with the destination culture, to respect the environment. So we just here are pushing to make it mainstream. I don't know if somebody else has another question, or otherwise, I think we're going to call it a day or a panel, I don't know. So thank you so much, everyone. You have been fantastic. Please don't hesitate to approach us if you have additional questions, want to learn more about tourism. And yeah, remember, you are all tourists, so help us drive change, please. Thank you so much.